have a break midway because then people will leave, but that's not what we're going to do here. One of the first things I want to talk about is Lisa Randall from PG&E came in at lunch. She switched off with Caroline Stringer. There's Lisa at the back. Say hello. Remember how we talked about PG&E was a generous sponsor for our Arbor Week grants? And so Lisa said that she has 300 trees that are left over from another program that she was doing with Energy Saving Trees and Arbor Day Foundation, and that she's interested in finding a good home for these 300 trees. And they are 5-gallon, and there are 3 different species. There's the white fringe tree, there's the buttonbush tree. These are all smaller trees, right, making sense with utilities. And the other one is the cornelian dogwood. So what you'll want to do is, so there's about 100 of each. So what I'm going to do as a follow-up to this is if you're interested in these trees, I'm going to send out an email what the tree species are. You should check to see if it works in your neighborhood. These were originally in the Bay Area that they were being given away. Alameda County. So that should give you some idea. One of them might need a little bit more water than the other when I was looking at it, but these will be available. And I guess what will happen is that they will get mailed directly to whoever asks for it. You don't have to go pick them up or anything. So, and they will be distributed probably or sent out probably in the next month or so. Okay. Okay, so we'll send out more information, and then if you're interested in these trees for your organization, let us know pronto, and we'll get that to you. So thank you very much for sharing trees with us from PG&E. Thank you. And then Lisa has to go, so thank you very much for coming and for sponsoring our, take care. Okie doke. Speaking of dogwoods, this is a dogwood in Sacramento. This is because we were talking about funding at the last discussion, so I thought one of the ideas that we'd followed was Catherine Martineau had said, well, why don't you do a car sharing program versus that Amazon Smile thing as far as bringing in funding. So anybody can do the car donation program. Sacramento Tree Foundation has it. I thought it was like a local thing, but they accept cars from anywhere in the country. So if your Aunt Eleanor and Uncle Ira in Kansas want to donate their car, if they say it goes to your organization because you've set up with that, that'll happen. So check into it. When I donated my old car, it was worth $900 to Sac Tree. And you can go to our website and check out our donate button, and that'll tell you about it, so that you can find out from there. So this session is called Communications, and it was really supposed to be about how do we collectively communicate better together. What happened a couple years ago was unprecedented when the network got together to talk about save our water and save our trees. First, it started out as just a discussion about what do we do with the governor saying that everybody should turn off the water to their lawns, and it developed into an education campaign of save our water and save our trees. And I would say we probably had, and I'm going to look around the room, there's probably a lot of the groups in this room. We had our hardcore supporters who were willing to take that messaging and put it up on their network, on your website, and have the Save Our Water logo on your materials. Even if you had slightly different information, we tried to have the same messages about what you should do, how you should water your young trees, how you should water your mature trees. But this idea of having collective impact is key. And we have a couple things that we would like to get your support on. So we would like to take that model and we would like it to make it stronger. So this is going to be an interactive session where I want you to tell me, Cindy, that's too much of a pain. We're already doing our own thing. I mean, that's what I wonder, you know. So, but I'm going to bring up some of the topics that we're working on and see if these resonate. So this particular topic that's up on the screen right now, jobs. We've heard today that workforce development is something that the cities want to hear about, that people want to hear about. So jobs in general is kind of easy if you just talk about it. Right now, we're doing a bit of a push in the Alameda County area because of Merritt College in Oakland is starting their program as an urban arborist with an urban arborist program. We want to take that program and move it down to LA. But for right now, so I did a little bit of a regional outreach. I just want to let you guys know about it and that this program is available. It is now approved by the California Community College Board or whatever they call it. And we can use this in other areas. There's also the fact, and we've talked about jobs before, like last year, where and you'll see it on the back of the flyer. I have the flyers here. We're going to pass them around. That the employers are interested in hiring and possibly even reimbursing students for what they do at a community college. So there are quite a bit of possibilities here for jobs in the neighborhoods. Does that make sense? That A, you could go try and start taking classes at a Merritt College, for example. B, you could get a job at the same time with a tree care company, and once you successfully complete the class, that they would reimburse you. So if you're thinking about your neighborhoods and where you're working, as this spreads, I know that Ken Knight was talking about taking the curriculum and using it in Santa Barbara. What were you going to say?
I wanted to say thank you for holding that yesterday. My guys went, was that yesterday or Tuesday? Whenever that was. The climbing, new exciting, they had a climbing demo.
That was Merritt College, that's right.
Yeah, yep. And my workforce development crew, they went and got in some trees for the first time and got some job offers, and they were all excited about
They got some job offers.
Yeah,
but some job offers.
Yeah, so definitely amazing, awesome, great stuff. Definitely areas for improvement too, but awesome to have that exposure.
That's great feedback from Merritt College. They'll be happy to hear that. Cool. Okay, so that's what this is supposed to be a model that we were going to start at Merritt College where they developed the curriculum. So there's a couple things. They developed a course outline of record, which is kind of standard, but the teacher who did it understands that many teachers want to have, what's that called, artistic license, or they can develop their own program, but she's going to make a lot of her materials available to anybody. So that means that if you don't have something, you can start with hers and go from there. So a lot of arborists already have their stuff if they're interested in this program. So we are continuing to push this. If you're in the Bay Area, I probably already sent you an email. I'll probably send it to you again after today just to try and make sure that you keep communicating this. Next. Okay, Arbor Week. How many of you celebrate Arbor Week? Okay, everybody, right? How many of you are even really aware of the fact that California Relief does an Arbor Week poster contest or art contest now? Right, so more of you this year, because we kind of went around and asked you to send this out. We would like to get much better, I guess the word is, and the marketing term is penetration, but that's, not me, is it? It's lunch. Claire, is that you? Can you turn that off? Remember, mute? I think we're good. Okay, thank you. If worse comes to worse, we're going to have to go ask to have it muted if it continues. Okay. Okay, we're going to go ask to have it muted. Okay. Next thing. Technology is wonderful, except when it doesn't quite work. That's okay. So I would like to ask, what do you feel about promoting the Arbor Week contest to your audiences, your school audiences? So weird. Sorry. What did you say? Wait a second. What time you got? Okay. You want to know this time? You want me to... We're doing outreach here. Hey, you want a tree? yeah. Okay. So would you be willing to send postcards to your schools? If so, raise your hands. Okay. Would you be willing to go mention it while you're at the schools? Because sometimes we find that if you mail something to somebody, like hard copy or even email, that they don't see it, but when you're there, yes? you pass this back? Because I should just leave these. Oh, the poster contest is 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and then we also have a video contest, which is middle school. We have not a curriculum. We don't say that anymore. We say we have educational activities for the middle school, which we understood they didn't have before, and then but the video contest is middle school and high school, and Amelia has been testing it on her high schooler and said, you know, the high schoolers have got the phones. The middle schoolers might not. So, all right. So you guys are committing here, right? Everybody's committing. You're going to help. Early enough notice. Wait a minute.
I got notice of this, and it was in like January, February, and we talked about it at our meeting, but it just wasn't enough time to get to the schools because we wanted to send out emails, and they just need a whole lot more time to prepare for something like this.
So September,
October, right.
All right.
Our goal had been to send it out just before, in between Thanksgiving and Christmas breaks, was when we sent it to the schools and started posting it on social media. But then they're gone over the holidays, so timing is of an issue, but we'll try to be a little earlier, and so maybe they can get it in their planning for the new year. It might not be on.
So my question was about the educational materials for the middle schoolers. Are those something that, like, you have available now that we can hand out to classrooms or whatever? 'Cause I think that would be, I know that a couple of years ago now we had like an Earth Week challenge where we kind of used that as an opportunity for the elementary and middle schoolers to survey the trees in their schoolyards to help us know about the status of where they are. So maybe integrating like the drawings with some small activities so they can both help our organizations and get them like out and playing with the trees or whatever would be a great opportunity.
They are applicable. Like I've used them with Girl Scouts. You know, they're great 1 hour to 2 hour long activities that could lead into something like this. And for the middle school, so middle school's more experiments, which they don't get to do often in the classroom anymore.
You know, this picture reminds me, in Cupertino, we have an open space area. We're doing replanting of native plants and bushes and trees. And you walk along this trail, and there's a photo survey site where you're encouraged to take a picture with your phone and then email it to an address, and then the city staff can compile it. And I could see a time-lapse video that they could compile based on that.
Cool. We have to, the good thing this is being recorded, so we'll remember that since I'm not taking a note right at the second. Cool. Thanks for that. Absolutely.
One thing on the video contest, which runs for the middle school to high schoolers, is it's not geared toward the schools. We do that through Instagram directly to the youth. We are considering doing it instead of having it Arbor Week, of having it in the fall, because of the fact you're doing video, and in the winter there's not a lot of stuff to film. You know, kids are trying to pull tree topics into a video, and usually they end up doing drawings or things like that. They can't do stuff. There's no canopy for a lot of these areas at the time. So I just wondered if anyone had any thoughts on that, if they had any experience doing video with youth. Stay tuned then. It'll be my big decision.
Well, you know, the other thing is we believe in experimentation. So this was the graphic that we had done last year, Healthy Trees, Healthy Me. It was a really cool theme. The theme the year before, by the way, was Trees Are Superheroes. That's why we were kind of calling Lorena Gonzalez-Fletcher a superhero. Okay, now we're going to move on. So there's outward communication, and I'm just going to mention this one because then we're going to get into talking about shot hole bore, which is a bit of a bigger outward communication. One of the things that's communication with us is when we send out the survey, which we're going to send out in a month or at the end of this month, and it's about your numbers. And this is, Miranda's in the room, you know, that these are the numbers that we provide to the U.S. Forest Service about how many volunteers you have, how many volunteer hours, how many trees you planted. This is important information that we send, and we send it in, we're now sending it in a, what do they call those surveys? SurveyMonkey. We're now sending it in a SurveyMonkey. So what we really want is, sometimes we feel like if for us to get complete information, we have to get on the phone and call you. And I want to remind you, there's 4 of us. So that's hard. So we'd rather that you just do it. So just do it, right, Nike? Are there any barriers to, what are the barriers to entry here? What are the concerns? And we're trying to send it, instead of sending it to everybody at the organization, we're trying to send it to the people that we think are the top 2 people so that they can at least delegate it. Does anybody have any questions about this?
What do you mean by community members reached?
We have something that talks about education, and there's literally, when you go out and you have a community event, there's 30 people at an event this time, there's 40 people at an event another time. How many are you reaching that way? That's what we mean. That's audiences. Who asked that question? Was that coming from God?
No.
Oh, there you are.
I asked it. That would be hard for us to do.
So let me just say, trees planted, trees cared for, outreach events, volunteers, of all of those, community members reached is probably lower on the totem pole, but you should start thinking about it. You should, once you start thinking about, well, how many community members did we reach? Well, we send out a newsletter with educational information to this many people. We had this many events, and there was about 30 people.
I'm going to add to that. We just went through an audit on our grants, and you should be documenting that stuff because it all shows, when you do get pass-through grants and things, all those pieces of paper or lists that you have that show who attended, and if they've signed it, makes it a legal document, you can show that as match or you can show that as participation. Very important information to collect, and it also gives you some clout if you're doing any kind of fundraising or advocacy. You can show, you can actually have real numbers.
Monitor volunteers engaged, but not community members reached.
Okay, let's have a chat. Well, we can talk more about it. No, seriously, and it may be that the only community members you're reaching are the volunteers. Are you ever throwing, are you ever having a lecture? Then you would count how many people attended the lecture, type of thing. Sacramento Tree Foundation, if I can use one example, they do they do individual training with the Sac Shade customers, so that actually counts as a community member reached. So it depends on your programs as far as what that number looks like. Miranda. Where's that? Here, right there.
So Cindy mentioned my name in reference to these numbers, and I felt it would just be relevant to say why they're important. So this is how we tell Congress and how you all tell your story. This is the roll-up numbers that go nationally that actually put into an allocation formula that allows California to get the most urban and community forestry funding out of any of the states. So we've been consistently a fantastic partner to roll up that piece of information. It funds great things like Greg McPherson's research on ecosystem benefits. It funds NUCFAC grants, like from Igor. It funds great umbrella organizations like Nancy Hughes, California Urban Forest Council, California Relief, salary staff of our CAL FIRE that manage the GGRF grants. So I think it touches a lot of different things, maybe with not directly or nonprofit, but people helping support. So the more we can raise that number, the higher amount of that allocation we can get, just simply put. All right.
Thank you. And I think we've talked about this in emails, but we realized we hadn't ever talked about it at a retreat, right?
This is the first time, Cindy, that I can...
Wait a minute.
This is the first time that I hear this message, Cindy and Miranda, as clearly and as simply as this in such a large audience. Because I'm very aware on the board, because we talk about that, of course, but thank you very much for sharing this, because it's to the point. And something that I like to say is there is strength in numbers, and these types of numbers as well as this type of numbers.
Thank you. And I would just say, I know they're not the perfect numbers, just often describe what we're doing, but they are what Congress is listening to, and that's pretty darn important right now, given some of our funding levels that have been bandied about in different years. So thank you for your continued support.
Yes, and these numbers can be used for other grants that we reach out to. When we're talking to other partners, when we're talking to people that might be sponsors, when we say we've reached, 51,000 community members, that has an impact.
Thank you. One number that we keep track of that might be interesting, especially as we deepen the relationship with natural resources and with these water departments, is square footage cement removal, square footage pavement removal. And oftentimes we're, replanting in an open basin, but what about those times that you had to remove the cement? And that's something we capture because our #1 funder is the water department and they want to know. But I think that could be interesting that we all think about that, especially as we get deeper into bed with water.
Yeah, and obviously, as you may know, we have more money to remove cement than we've ever had before. I mean, the GGRF grants were one of the first grants where we really started talking about it a lot. So it hadn't even, I'm not even sure if John's tracking cement square feet or CAL FIRE is tracking that. Okay, cool. I feel like there's something else I was going to tell you, but I'm forgetting it, so I'll remember it later. So that's good enough. Yeah?
Quick metric that might be added with regard to water is gallons of stormwater captured.
Yeah. Gallons of stormwater captured is going to be a calculated number, right, based on the basic size of the tree, and that would be a fair and interesting spreadsheet, but you could be using iTree for that to do that. How many people capture that information? Stormwater captured. Okay, let's just start with the basics. So I want these numbers first, okay? And then we'll start going after the more sophisticated stuff. Great idea, Jeff. Okay, let's keep moving. I promised 4 o'clock. You get your mic back? Okay. So a new invasive pest. You've been hearing about this. I talked about Save Our Water and Save Our Trees because that was what we considered a crisis in 2015. And now the pest has been a crisis for over a year, obviously. I can remember when it was first discussed 3 years ago at CUFAC. CUFAC is the California Urban and Community Forestry Advisory Committee, Urban Forestry Advisory Committee to CAL FIRE. And okay, well, maybe it wasn't that big a deal. It is a big a deal. I'm Italian. So I know it was such a big deal that we talked about it at the Power of Trees, and then certain efforts started. John Kabashima started advocating, and there are 2 bills out now. One is the Lorena Gonzalez Fletcher bill, and the other is a Grayson bill, trying to go after invasive pests and get more money for it, because I don't know if you realize this, but the California Department of Food and Ag is who's supposed to take care of invasive pests. And, California was known in the 70s, wasn't it, the fruit fly, right? We had this incredible system in the 70s, but then Prop 13 happened, and CDFA has been cut a lot over the last 20 years. Then, of course, shot hole borer came along. How many people know shot hole borer? All right, so I don't have to tell you about it. So we got approached by a videographer out of LA last October, and he wanted to do a short video, and he said he wanted it to be a social media video. And we were sitting here, and I was sitting there thinking about, well, how do we get out the word with Save Our Water and Save Our Trees? We kind of piggybacked on the Save Our Water people, although they didn't. They put us on their website, but they were not as active a partner necessarily as we wanted. So then I started thinking, all the younger generation is using social media. Maybe the social media is the way to go instead of just a website somewhere that somebody has to be happen to land on. This guy offered a very cheap price to do this video, and so I'm going to show it to you. What we're doing is we're saying we're trying to drive 2 different things. It's education about, and we have 2 different versions of the video. We have the educational video that says what it is and what is it you should do in your neighborhood. You're going to see it in a second. I don't need to tell you. And then the other one is an advocacy video, and this is kind of in line with all the stuff that we've talked about speaking up. And can we do something where we as a network coordinate to send out this messaging through social media to get people to call their state representative, all right? I'm not actually showing you the state representative one today. It's exactly the same, except we inserted the thing that said, in a couple cases, we have a strategic plan, we just don't have money, and we need to get funding and strong policy support from the state of California. And at the end of this, we have a draft social media plan. We're a little bit new at this social media stuff. There might be really social media savvy people in the room, so I want you all to take it, a copy of it, and then get back to us afterwards. All right. It's 3.5 minutes. This is supposed to work. It worked earlier. There we go.
Where in your community.
Wait a minute, stop there. Stop. How do I get it to go back?
Millions of pregnant females and offspring leave the dead.
Close your ears.
Infesting and reproducing and making more fungus all over the neighborhood.
All right.
The pests overwhelm the new trees. Trees start dying everywhere in your community.
Take pity on me.
Make it go backwards. I don't see
has an urban forest of 173 million trees. Has a forest of 173 million trees. They help create healthy and livable neighborhoods. Trees provide shade, clean air and water, human health benefits, and noise buffers. But a new invasive pest has started to destroy.
Don't leave me. I don't know what there's.
Oh, that's all.
Oh, Ryan's going to do you bumped it down back there? Okay.
In our urban trees. If not stopped soon, but a new invasive pest has started destroying our urban trees. If not stopped soon, invasive pest has started. Did you know California has an urban forest of 173 million trees? They help create healthy, livable neighborhoods. Trees provide shade, clean air and water, human health benefits, and noise buffers. But a new invasive pest has started destroying our urban trees. If not stopped soon, they could kill over 1/3 of California's urban trees. That's over 58 million dead trees in our neighborhoods.
Its ground zero was urban forestry. I don't think the public really has a clue how devastating this potentially is to their quality of life as well as our economy. And it's rapidly spreading throughout Southern California right now.
The numbers in Southern California are astronomical. It is only a matter of time before it gets to Northern California.
San Diego County, Tijuana River Basin, 140,000 willow trees, dead in just 9 months. The invasive shothole borer is currently known to infest 137 different types of urban trees, both stressed and healthy.
It affects all of us because the host range of this pest is so huge.
But what is a shothole borer and where did it come from? Invasive species hitch rides all over the planet. Hidden from view, they multiply on their journeys. Every 6 weeks, a new invasive pest enters California. The invasive shothole borer comes from Vietnam. Once on land, the shothole borers hitch a ride and find their way into urban neighborhoods and parks where they lack any natural predators, creating the potential for environmental chaos. They hit the ground, check out their new surroundings, and move into a tree near you. Once in the tree, the pests quietly multiply and produce a fungus that feeds them, but chokes off the tree's food supply. The pests are growing in your trees, and you have no idea. If you're not checking for the signs of pest infestation, it will be too late. Millions of pregnant females and offspring leave the dead tree, infesting and reproducing and making more fungus all over the neighborhood. The pests overwhelm the new trees. trees start dying everywhere in your community, and then everywhere in California. So by the 5th year, many of the trees in your neighborhood will be dead.
If we don't do something now, we're very likely to be moving into this era of explosive growth. Once we face that, it's much more costly and much more difficult to control. It'll be a crisis. It'll be a catastrophe. We'll lose tremendous amounts of tree canopy, and people will be, shocked. Saving the trees is saving ourselves, our own health, our own well-being.
The trees have numerous population health benefits. Trees play a very important role in our physical health, in our mental well-being. Trees can, in fact, save lives if we save them.
So what can you do? Monitor your local trees. If you see holes that look like this, contact your local arborist and county agricultural commissioner. Check your trees, particularly the California sycamores, which are a favorite of the shot-hole borer. The pests like these trees best. Do not move firewood from your neighborhood. Chip your green waste to 1 inch or less. For more information, please visit www.californiareleaf.org/pests.
Spacebar. Yeah. Why did I do that?
Almost every home here has sustained damage from this storm.
The roof is like top, and the roof, I think, is right there.
What's that roof?
I grew up with computers. I'm not.
Okay. That was all. Okay. Thank you. This is called tech support. Remember that? Before we had to do everything ourselves? Reactions. We also have a 1-minute trailer to be used on Instagram. And I'm going to pass this out now. I don't expect to have a super big conversation here. Can you guys see if we're going to send out a social media post probably tomorrow, just as a test case, and we want you to do it. We want you to, reverberate it or echo it or amplify it. But we're going to work to polish down this campaign plan and actually launch that in the next 10 days or 2 weeks. The idea is the hardest thing was getting this video done, and now we just have to keep this going. And it's not going to be a one-time thing, guys. This is going to be something that takes place over a while, because I think there's 2 parts of it. There's educating the public, and then there's the electeds. We have been talking to elected officials about getting funding for this. The money that they're talking about right now is about $10 million. We think that we need more than that, and we need it over a multiple-year period, because the research will take a couple years to find the best treatments, controls. And the other issue, of course, is that this is just the latest one that came down the pike. There will be more, and what do we do about them? So, question.
The Research Foundation of the Western Chapter of the Britton Fund also has a grant dealing with Akif and John Kabashima and this invasive pest issues. So you will be seeing a series of educational regional conferences that are coming from UNR. They're not coming from the Western Chapter, they're not coming from the Britton Fund, but they're funded through our grant programming, so keep an eye on it. It's a 2-year grant. They'll be doing some more printed materials, more of those. I don't know if anybody's, well, those of you that are from the LA area have probably seen the little shot hole bore, little ID card that it has a little magnifying glass. It's pretty cool, but there'll be some printed material, education materials, not for public, for professionals, that is funded through the Britton Fund. So it's kind of cool. Everybody has their hands in John's pie right now, so that's great, I think.
It's an important pie. So one question I have, and when you're doing this, and there were like multiple reiterations of this, John Kabashima wanted us to say, contact your local arborist and your county agricultural commissioner. You know, and I kind of went, I never knew who my county agricultural commissioner was. We're going to have a link on the webpage to figure out who your county agricultural commissioner is. We have a link on the webpage. The webpage is up. We're going to keep refining it a little bit, but the webpage is up. We're going to have a link. There is a link on figuring out who your state representative is. If they don't know how to do that, it's using an openstates.org location. So this is my one question. It says contact your local arborist, and you know how you have dreams in the middle of the night and you go, did we screw up on that? Does a local arborist make sense? We thought about saying your city arborist, but not every city has an arborist, correct? Is your local arborist, and what is the mechanism to connect them with their local arborist? Should it be, but is ISA.org the best way to find your local?
Well, but back up though. So that's fine, but if I'm an arborist, I'm going to charge you for that site visit. Right, so that's a big difference, right? Just say contact an arborist, great. My rate is whatever it is. Okay. And I think you'll set up the expectation that a consulting arborist or a private company will just come. They won't. Why? I mean.
True, but by the same token, Igor, when you say call an arborist, you could be calling anyone. So it is definitive to say a certified arborist. Or number one, you should be calling a professional. And that should either be your county ag office and actually the county ag office is going to connect you with a local reputable certified arborist. In most cases, they are already, anyone that's working in shot hole bore work is already working with their local ag office because they work in concert. But if you just do anybody from the phone book, I couldn't tell you if that's someone that I would want to come and look at my trees, free or not.
Also, the UC Davis extension is a good contact.
Okay. A question. Well, first of all, I was involved with the medfly fight. So is our goal eradication or containment? And second question is, this could easily overwhelm the county ag offices with calls. Have we worked with them to ask how they'll handle the influx of questions? And third is, what about sending a picture with a penny next to the hole for scale? Oh, the pen. Okay.
On the website, we've got the penny with the bug on it, and here we've got, and I think we're going to put the pen and the hole on the website too. We're still modifying that. Yeah, the whole thing about overwhelming the local arborist and or the ag commissioner, I was worried about that, but we should, right? We should. And that's good to hear that yeah, go ahead.
The ag office needs to know it's there. So if they need to monitor it, they need to see it, and once those pictures start getting out, there could be something that looks similar to it, and it's easy to misdiagnose. You have to call a professional.
Okay, Miranda?
Yeah, just a general comment is, maybe some more information about who the target audience is for this would be important, because as much as we all know what a certified arborist is and how that's really important, our average population probably doesn't necessarily know the role of an arborist versus maybe other types of natural resource specialists. And so if we are targeting professionals or certain types of groups, it makes total sense to put certified arborist and bring that. But if we're targeting general public and social media, I just would want us to think about who our target audience is and what actual steps we want them to take.
What I was kind of thinking, I agree, there's the certified arborist, local arborist. I think if we put on the website, because we're sending them there, if we have the link to the certified arborist, that could help direct them that way. And then the ag commissioner. Oh, you had your question about containment. Some of the things I've been hearing lately is that we have so much of it that we're down to containment, we're not down to eradication. And I'll just tell you the story that when we were going, Alfredo and I were going in to talk to Assembly Member Richard Bloom. to talk about the budget for this Monday. We'd already talked to his office a couple of weeks ago, and I had, Alfredo had said to me, Cindy, he's in Santa Monica and Bel Air. Find out how much of the pest is in Santa Monica and Bel Air. So I looked on the map, right, that Kabushima's office is set up, and there were only like 6 dots, and there were a lot of other dots elsewhere. So I called up John, and I said, John, how come there's not, you told me there was something going on in Santa Monica and Bel Air, because he mentioned that on the phone. And I said, there's only 6 dots. And he said, oh, that's because we ran out of money to do survey work. There's a lot of it in Bel Air. So then he said it was at the UCLA Botanical Garden. So I called up the Botanical Garden, and maybe you guys all know this, but I hadn't heard this. When I talked to the UC Botanical Garden, they have 4.5 acres and 600 trees. And I said something about, okay, according to John, you took out a tree in 2014 and you took out a tree last month. I said, what about the rest of your trees? And they said, oh, we have so much of it that we just can't do everything that we should do. What he said was that out of the 600 trees, 20%, or about 120 of them, were infested, and that they're only removing the trees that are severely infested. Like you see this thing up here? It's like when the tree's just about to burst, and apparently I called Kabushima, and so I said, so what about the rest of the trees? Well, they're infested, but they're not as severely infested, so we're going around doing heavy pruning and topping and injections when they get a little bit of help from the UCLA arborist contractor. So, it's scary. So that means that they're all kind of like a time bomb. So in talking to Assemblymember Bloom, he caught the issue that all these trees are there with this bug, and he's got all these wealthy neighborhoods there that this is likely to spread to. So containment is interesting.
I think your message needs to be different in different parts of the state. I think there's enough information in Southern California where the solutions that are appropriate would be very different than in Northern California where this hasn't been detected yet. And I think in areas where it hasn't been detected yet, the message you want to get is to let the Ag Commissioner know, because the Ag Commissioner needs to know if this pest is in their county when it currently, to their knowledge, isn't.
You go to the Ag Commissioner office. You don't just call him or her because that's one person. You go there and you ask for a biologist. There's usually like 5 or 20 of those, and those are the ones that go. I used to work at the Ag Commissioner office, 2 of them. So you want the biologist, not the weights and measures guys. Sometimes it's a dual job, so that's okay, but you don't want a strictly weights and measures guy. You want an ag biologist.
The UC Extension office is also very helpful for these kind of pest inquiries. And then the chipping issue, I think that's relevant for Southern California, but I don't think people in Northern California, what about, I mean, they aren't chipping their diseased trees yet to know that they should do it within, should be smaller than an inch.
I think this is just general, though. That is general practice. We're trying to get people not to move firewood, right? And chipping certainly works for this pest, and it would, okay, and let me just ask, I'm not an arborist, remember that. Is chipping to less than 1 inch such a big deal? Is it a big deal, or is it just a machine and you turn the gauge?
What do you mean by big deal? Like,
is it hard to chip to 1 inch versus does everybody tend to chip to 5 inches?
I know the mulch that I get from chip trees for free is not to 1 inch. So that typically isn't done in my area where you're just chipping trees that have been removed.
Yeah. Okay. Andy, I think.
So, and I just want to add one thing, just for what they can do in terms of reporting it to the county ag. John, what John was saying when I've seen his talks is just that they want to see that pen tip in front of a hole so that they can see the size of the hole, and they want to see the whole picture of the tree so that they can see those splotches. So just those 2 pictures, at least if I remember correctly from his presentation, but maybe talk to John Kabushima about that, but that they want those pictures, and it's always easier if we are getting inundated with these sorts of calls in our Ag Commissioner office to have them just send those pictures, and then they can throw out the ones that, no, that's termite damage or whatever it may be. Just make sure that you get the right information about what to send in. I think that'll help.
Andy?
You can find a lot of those details on the UCR website, Escalon Labs. They show the map of where they already know that it exists. And so if you think you found it outside of that area, that's where they really want you to report it to them because it's a new area. And as far as chipping goes, if the thickness of the chip is 1 inch minus, my understanding is that's going to help eradicate the shot hole borer. They have a really weak skeletal structure, so the vibrations of going through the chipper is very difficult for them.
Because they stay inside that tree their whole life, they don't have to be tough, right?
Correct.
Okay. I also think the message on the movement of firewood needs to be really emphasized because that is the way it's transported primarily.
Well, I mean, and let's just be honest too. There's been a Don't Move Firewood campaign going on for years, right? Yeah. Lots of people don't know that, right? Okay, it's quarter till. So this was a heavy-duty topic. I passed out this social media thing. If any of you have if you have like an idea right now, I want you to come talk to me afterwards about how we should change the social media thing, but afterwards we will be in touch. Now we're going to shift to a lighter note. Oh, no, that's not a lighter note. Okay. Never mind. Green gentrification, just saying that this is a topic coming up. How many of you have heard the term green gentrification? Raise your hand. Okay. Hopefully I expect no matter what, we'll be talking about it at the Partners in Community Forestry Conference in Irvine in the fall. How many of you are going to the Partners in Community Forestry Conference in Irvine in the fall? How many of you knew about it? You should think about it. It's in California, and it doesn't come here that often. Okay, urban design we've talked about a lot. We've talked about resilience and adaptation. Oh, this is the Bosco Vertical. This is the vertical forest that I think you mentioned earlier. And so the trees are between 3 meters and 9 meters, I think. Catherine was the first person to told me about the Bosco Vertical. You don't like it anymore? She wants the Bosco Horizontal. I like it. Okay, just to let you know. And then this is one thing that in going back through other retreats, when Elizabeth Rhodes, Dr. Elizabeth Rhodes from the LA County Department of Public Health talked about trees and climate change, this was one of her quotes, that a public health focus was most likely to elicit emotional reactions. So just to keep that in mind. Jose Gonzalez, and I'm upset because I couldn't do the accents on Jose's name. It was a problem with PowerPoint. Last year, we talked about having some workshops about how to work with the new grants that are out that are different from ours, like the Urban Greening Grant. Things got busy where we were, and we're still working on this. We're going to start off with a Facilitating with Difference series of workshops the week of July 9th to 13th. Jose Gonzalez, our former board member, is going to be the facilitator. The idea is that I was thinking for a long time we need to make sure that we all have facilitation skills, not only for talking to communities that are low income if we're not of the same kind of community, a community that's different from us. I also thought we could use this facilitation for if we're going to start talking to engineers and we're not engineers, or if we're going to start talking to planners and we're not planners. So they're going to be in Richmond, Fresno. Been meaning to call you, Lee. And then we're going to do another one in LA. And it's going to be for around noon. It's going to be a midday kind of facilitation workshop. So that's a heads up. He is the founder of Latino Outdoors, although he stepped away from being the CEO, so he has more time. And now we get to the lighter note. So this was the video that they didn't get to see at the ISA conference. And this is because we have to now give a round of applause to Friends of the Urban Forest and the San Francisco Public Works because they got the Arbor Day Foundation Champion of Trees Award this year. And this video was created to, there it is, to show it. It's working. Oh no, here we go again.
One of the things that makes a city beautiful,
wait a minute,
a place to call home.
Okay, I'm going to make this big. I want to go back to the beginning though. It's not that long, you know. Forget it.
Is the health of its forest, the amount of green space residents can play in and enjoy. And when that health is threatened, it's up to the community to fight for it. That's what the City of San Francisco Department of Public Works and Friends of the Urban Forest did. They led the fight to save the city's street trees. It started in 2011 when the mayor of San Francisco moved the care of street trees from the Department of Public Works to adjacent property owners to help save the city money. This change made property owners responsible for the beautiful trees that line their streets and the shaded sidewalks around the trees as well. Hundreds of homeowners wanted to remove the trees in front of their homes altogether rather than become responsible for public safety. Public Works and Friends of the Urban Forest needed a plan. But there wasn't much data on the city's urban forest. Information like the age of trees, species, location, and condition just didn't exist. So they worked together to make a case for the trees. They conducted a street tree census and hired an economic consultant to conduct a street tree financing study. The citywide street census changed everything. We now know how many trees we have, 20,000 more than we estimated, in fact. This tree census and street tree financing study would become part of the urban forest plan that would prove that the urban forest was an asset to the city. It would pave the framework for an urban forestry program. Public Works and Friends of the Urban Forest used this information to add a measure called Proposition E to the San Francisco ballot that asked voters if the city should take back responsibility of street trees. The city would reserve $19 million every year from the city's general fund to maintain street trees. On November 8, 2016, Proposition E overwhelmingly passed with more than 78% of voter support. Trees make communities more walkable, livable, and sustainable. They reduce stress, crime, and make people happy. As Public Works starts to maintain San Francisco's street trees, Friends of the Urban Forest will continue to plant trees that will create a healthy urban forest for years to come. For demonstrating leadership in advancing forestry public policy, the Arbor Day Foundation presents the 2018 Champion of Trees Award to the San Francisco Department of Public Works and Friends of the Urban Forest.
And I don't know how to turn it off. Okay. It is now 10 till 4. I know I have one other announcement. Am I missing an announcement? Did somebody come up to me and ask me to announce something else at some point? Okay, good. Never mind. Chuck, why don't you come up here and do your announcement?
Hey everyone, I'll be really quick. We saved the advocacy piece for the last so that I only have to build 10 minutes of my time to lobbying instead of 8 hours. So what I did while we were on one of the afternoon sessions, I went and got some endorsement forms for Proposition 68, which is the park bond that's going to be on the ballot in about a month. Many of you may have already endorsed it. If your organization is not endorsed it, California Relief is part of the Central Valley Task Force trying to gain support for the measure. So I would encourage you to take an endorsement form with you, fill it out, endorse the park bond, at least $15 million for CAL FIRE's Urban and Community Forestry Program, additional $20 million for Green Infrastructure Program, much like Natural Resources Urban Greening Program, Stormwater Management Funds, of course, a ton of money for local parks, river parkways, urban streams. So some really good stuff in there that I think would be very accessible to a lot of the organizations represented here. The other is we don't have an endorsement form for it, but you can certainly talk to me about it. We're also supporting the No on Prop 70 campaign, and Prop 70 came out of the deal last year with the governor's office and the legislature to extend cap and trade. And what this is if this were to pass, it would freeze all cap and trade revenues starting in 2024 until there was a 2/3 vote of the legislature on how to redistribute those funds. And with 398, the bill that extended cap and trade passing last year with a 2/3 vote, it is technically being considered a tax, which means you could kind of use it for anything. So we're really concerned about that going forward, and with a 2/3 vote, we think it become more of a political football than it already is. So if you can join the No on 70 campaign, you can talk to me, you can go to the website. Like I said, there's not an endorsement form for that. I think right now they're just collecting logos to put up on the website. But please do support Prop 68 and then no on Prop 70. Thanks.
Yes on 68, no on 70. Okay, I would like Amelia to come up here. What? Well, I was going to say, I would like the staff just, could we give a round of applause to the staff, too? Two things I wanted to say. Oh, and Amelia has two other things.
Oh, just general stuff. For those who are traveling, who traveled here today, we do have our travel stipends. I have copies of the form. It's one per organization, so not everybody needs one. It's also on our website, so you can download it and submit it to us whenever you want. It's a reimbursement, so we do need to show your receipts that you did expend those funds. And we also would like to take a group picture, and we were going to try to do it under that tree over there. So when Cindy's done, if we could just kind of make a beeline over there.
I'm done. Thank you very much for coming.